Who, you or me?
Both of us. We're fucking crazy rich. I didn't realize we went live yet. That's pretty funny.
So welcome everyone to episode 55 of Rocket Lab Weekly. It's been a very interesting week. The stock price is a lot higher than last week. I believe last week we were not over 10 yet for the close. And now we've seen over 11, although we didn't finish the week at over 11, but we've seen that. So yeah. How was your week, Mr. Casanova Matt?
Always a good day, man. Always a good day to be alive. Always a good day to come live and be able to chit chat with our friends, specifically about Rocket Lab Weekly. It's always a good time. But specifically for my week, good, man. I mean, other than Palantir just continuing to blow my covered calls out of the water, which I'm hoping kind of comes down at some point, everything else in the portfolio doing well. I think the only mistake that I've done over the past couple weeks or so is sell my TQQQ stock. So I had about 1,500 shares or something like that. I sold that a little early, but I think at the end of the day, I knew that was going to be the case. I felt like there was going to be another push up. I guess for me, at the end of the day, all that matters is when I buy back in, and my hope is. And Curtis, I'm glad you said something because I forgot to mention something. Curtis sent me something in the mail. It was last week, I think, and maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but I rarely check the mail because I have to go. It's at the end of our gated community, but just have to throw that gated part in there. But he sent me something, and initially I'm like, "Oh, this is so cool, right?" Cool little Rocket Lab notepad, and then I'm like, "This is really awesome." And then the first page. Guess what it has? It's got a little Rocket Mortgage. So I literally was in my car when I got this and I started crying. So it's got like a few pages of Rocket Mortgage in there, and then eventually it goes to actual Rocket Lab. So I just was like, it was like one of those gifts where you're like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then it had like a joke inside of it. So then I'm starting to like cry tears because it's so funny. And then it's actually a very useful gift at the end of the day because it's got Rocket Lab all over it. So brought that up from downstairs. I've been doing a lot of virtual meetings. So I've been taking a lot of stuff on OneNote, but I'm going to start writing again on Seeking Alpha. So I need to take some notes, and that's the perfect pen and paper place to do it. So thank you again, Curtis. Your gifts don't go unnoticed.
Yeah, he's amazing with his gifts, and he actually showed me, gave me a preview that he's sending you that, and I also flagged up. So for new viewers, this is a running joke here. The joke here is that Rocket Mortgage and Rocket Lab both have Rocket in their name, and Matt has been telling his friends or interested investors about Rocket Lab, and some people thought he was talking about Rocket Mortgage the whole time. That's how little they were paying attention, and that's how little Rocket Lab is known. So that is the basis of the joke.
It goes to show you we're early, my friends. We are early. If that makes anybody feel better or worse, I don't know.
Yeah. Cool. I've also had a very interesting week. I had a big first. I actually had 2 people visit me from Netherlands who got to know me from the channel, and they were interested in maybe buying some real estate in Sweden. I don't know if they do. It's super interesting. They were very interesting people. I'm very happy to. It's amazing the comm lines that you get from YouTube. You never know who's watching your video. And this could have been you, Matt. You were 2 times in England and never bothered to come over.
I know. I'm slacking.
Yeah, it must be my bad smell or something. But anyway, so if any of you guys are in Sweden and you want to buy real estate from me, I'm very happy to. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to want to buy real estate from me. I'm very happy to. I hope I don't regret.
That was the second question. That's why I never came, right? You were like, Matt, you're coming, right? And I was like, yeah, so excited. And you're like, so we have $100,000 minimum. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm just kidding. I was kidding. Bad joke.
So I hope I don't regret this later when the channel is much bigger. But if you guys are in Sweden and you want to meet up, send me a message. And if I can, I'll be very happy to connect with whoever is here.
It just goes to show the testament of what people really value you, Vince, and they want to make sure that they keep in touch. And it's a blessing to be able to reach out to people and help them in any way, shape, or form. And it just goes to show how much of an impact you are having on somebody's life for them to come and visit. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. So Rocket Lab also has had a very interesting week, and we can start with the first news is that they added a secret mission to their lineup, and it was a very fast. Was supposed to actually launch today, but unfortunately something came up, and the mission is delayed. And this was to a secret customer. And then I saw a Twitter account, which I don't want to name here, who was basically disclosing who the customer was. And I think that Twitter account is probably right. And I just wanted to say something about it, because I don't think that we're helping Rocket Lab if we are getting to know this data and then we're publicly disclosing it, because maybe then some customers are not going to trust Rocket Lab later because they can't keep things under wraps. So I think that we should do everything in our power as investors. Yes, it's very nice to do research, but if we, for any reason, have confidential data, make sure you DM it to me on Twitter, but it shouldn't go any further than that. So Matt, what do you think about this new mission? And yeah, you can go ahead.
No, just want to make sure you finished. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I mean, I think 2 months from being able to sign the deal and get it turned around is very good, and I hope that persists. Right. So this is an Electron mission, and I hope that maybe even haste missions can be done even in a faster pace, knowing that they're not necessarily going in orbit. Right. They might have a little bit less restrictions. They might only have to deal with some way less restrictions than having to go into orbit. But anyway, just food for thought. I think that this is a great opportunity. It's a new customer, obviously, because they're confidential. So that's another piece. There's been some rumors as to who it is, and if it is that person, that's great. I think it's another constellation provider that we're able to provide access to space, and I think that's only good for the industry and good for us as we continue to look for more and more customers. The thing I will say is, and it goes back to kind of what you were saying, is the confidentiality of some of these agreements and the data getting out there. I think it's going to be tough. We're entering a space right now where a lot of these customers are consolidating in who their providers are, and also people are not getting as much cash as they used to. Right? You used to be able to get hundreds of millions of dollars for just showing up to an office. And now, it's a lot more stringent, and you have to go through a lot more hurdles to be able to get the free money that you can use to feed your startups. And so I feel like we're going to go through a little bit of a downturn when it comes to some of the people that we provided launches to in the past might go bankrupt, unfortunately. So to us, continuing to grab more and more folks and cast our net out as wide as possible, especially as we get prepared for the Neutron side of things, I think is only better. So to me, I would love to see more launches from Planet. I'd love to see more launches just overall from a multitude of people. I mean, I know we have a lot of Black Sky launches. We have some Capella. We have some Synspectives. But I'm hoping that a lot of these contracts are coming to an end and they re-sign for larger deals. But I guess we just have to wait and find out. But overall, going back to this particular deal, 2 months turnaround is great, and I hope to see more of it in the future.
Yeah. Where does the 2 months come from? Because I think that when they announced the secret contract, it was like launching within 2 weeks. But I also see that people are commenting that it's very impressive from contract to launch in 2 months.
It might have been. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was Rocket Lab, literally on their.
Could be.
I put Rocket Lab. Whoops. Rocket Lab. It might have been the post before this, but I do like the name. Let's see. They're talking about Planet. Yes, here it is. It's literally like 3 posts before this one. on October 16th, 3:36 p.m. for me. So it's probably like 9-something p.m. for you. If you just want to scroll to that one, or I can screen share, either one.
Yeah, share your screen. I think that's
share my screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Here we go.
Yeah, so let me zoom in a little bit for the viewer here. So yeah, you can see new mission alert. We've added an extra mission to our launch line this year, which is great. And I'm curious if that means there's still going to be an additional, 4 to 8 launches 4 to 7 launches that they were predicting for fourth quarter. If this means there's going to be 5 to 8. Curious to see what that has. For confidential commercial customer, from contract to space in less than 2 months. And then that's when they announced the initial launch date. So
yeah. And this is the fastest for Rocket Lab, as far as I understand. They have never done it this fast, and it is very impressive.
They might have done faster, but this is the fastest I've seen them label. So that's I hesitate to say like that's the fastest, because I don't know if I've never seen. I would love it actually if somebody has that list of like when Rocket Lab's actually published launch agreement to actually. That would actually be kind of cool to see if the timeline is shrinking. That would actually be kind of cool as well, because that would be impressive as well.
Yeah, cool. And by the way, on the launches, I'm a little bit worried that we haven't seen any launches yet, and it's the end of October, because it's how do you call it? It's much easier to do 8 launches when you're doing like 2-3 a month, and I'm like, because it's also like the last part of December is effed because it's Christmas. So like in effect, I mean, maybe they don't, maybe Rocket Lab doesn't vibe like that, and they don't care if it's Christmas and people still have to come in to launch the rocket. But if it was any normal business, like the last part of December is effed, and then we have like 1.5 months now, a little bit more than like 7 weeks to launch 8 satellites, and that's precisely. Like. They have. I think they have never done a 1-week turnaround yet. Like the fastest is 9 days. So they would have to do their record like 9 weeks in a row. I don't know. It's not looking too good. Curtis, thank you so much for the super chat.
Comments. I love the chat box, man. I love the people that we have, man. They're so funny, and the fact that they get to know each other now, and they're like bantering back and forth. It just makes me happy.
Yeah. I'm having trouble today following the chat. So if you have any comments that you want to highlight,
it must be so hard having so many, Vince. No, I'm just kidding.
Come on, you have also the same, and more. That I mean, your channel is like double the size of mine. But Curtis, good point. I mean, they do have 2 pads. Well, yeah, that's also true that the second pad in New Zealand just came back online, and maybe that is the reason why they timed the opening of that to this quarter. We're gonna see. It's soon the earnings call, and then we're going to get more color on how they're thinking with the launches. But we can agree it's not looking too good for this quarter.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where we end up. Like you said, I mean, that was something that was concerning me. So going back to this launch that they just announced, I mean, the fact that they announced something in October, because I was thinking the same, but a couple days before they announced this one earlier this week, I was like, it's going to be tough to get something off in October. And then it's relying pretty much on the remaining 8 weeks that you have in the year. And it's likely they're not going to launch anything over Christmas time or New Year's time. Because that's, for at least in our industry, it's a very slow period of time. They generally ramp down things because people are distracted, more people are taking off on vacation, and for safety reasons, a lot of times we just don't want a lot of activity going around. So it's generally just like baseline operations. So yeah, that's something to be concerned about. Although it makes me question as well if they're going to continue this narrative that they have. And it's not to say I don't believe them, but it kind of gets tiring to hear I don't want to say the blame, but the I guess the responsibility of the readiness for these launches to happen to be on on the partner. At some point, you have to take it in house to recognize that this is always going to be a problem, and to be able to be to push through something like that, whether or not you always have 2 customers per launch window, what have you, to at least negate, and it's not going to guarantee that you always have a launch going off. But if they keep talking about, and I'm not putting any blame on Rocket Lab, I think this is just growing pains, right? I mean, they're hoping to still get 40% maybe more launches off than they did last year. So if you think about it in that respect, to me, I think that there's growing pains associated with it. Who's ready? Maybe more consistent check-ins, maybe more transparency between. I'm not saying these guys don't, when I say this, like, I'm not saying they're just like, okay, cool, have it ready in 2 years and we'll see you on the launch pad. Like, I don't think that that's what happens. Obviously, they have intermittent discussions about where the progress is, and intermediate discussions. Sorry, not intermittent, but intermediate discussions between everything, to make sure that they're releasing funds throughout the time. But it happens so frequently that I feel like you need to have almost parallel partners on one launch, to say, hey, you guys are both going to be launching within a 6-month window. Let's make sure that you guys both have the opportunity. And if you have so many rockets available, then it kind of gets me scratching my head as to why they can't do that, But, I'm not the rocket scientist here, right? So this is me playing armchair rocket scientist. And unfortunately, I probably shouldn't do that. Maybe it's something I can ask when we have the opportunity to have some of the heads of the company on in a later date.
Yeah. I mean, I want to strawman your argument, because the fact that they, had this, because we know that they normally don't build Electrons without a contract. So the fact that they could sign a contract and have an Electron ready within 2 months, it basically means that from their end, there is no bottleneck on getting the things to orbit. So it's like, it is on the customers. And then when we did ask the management of the company about this, they said that, yeah, we get paid 90% of the launch. And if the customers are delayed, the launches don't go anywhere, and all the money is in the box. So it's more like a bookkeeping, game when you launch it. And number 3 is, I really like to see the launches, but when we get to Neutron, like, 1 Neutron launch does more than like 8 Electron launches, like, in terms of revenue, So I feel that it's not worth to over stress about the Electron launches. And as you said, like, it is the highest ever that they have done. Like, it's going in the right direction, just not as fast as we want. But Neutron is the real deal that we are all waiting for.
Yeah, Neutron will be great.
Cool. So next news is that I don't know how to say this satellite. Do you know this teenage? Not teenager, but teenager one.
Mm-hmm.
Joined 1,100 other satellites that is powered by Rocket Lab solar panels. This is a collaboration that they have with Planet and Carbon Mapper, which is what do you call it? A non-profit that measures methane and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So I thought that this was like, very cool to see that Rocket Lab is involved in this. I'm not sharing my screen. Damn it! You need to stop me.
Yeah,
you need to yell at me when these things happen. So
how dare you, Vince? Sorry.
Exactly. So I don't remember, I tell you honestly, when this was launched. I think that here it's really just the solar panels that Rocket Lab has done for Planet Labs, and it was the Falcon 9 that launched this satellite, if I'm not mistaken. And it should be that it's very recent. But yeah, do you have any comments about this? Or
I think they're a great client, and it goes back to me kind of saying I need to do a little bit more DD to understand if these satellites are too big for Electron, and that's why we don't see. But I mean, I know in the past we've launched for Planet, and I'd love to see more launches happen from Electron. So yeah, it's it's nice to see not only the fact that we get Planet as a client when it comes to space systems and being able to put out in the solar panels, but hopefully we can do the end-to-end piece, right, and help them in any way, shape, or form to live out their dream as a great provider of satellite imaging as we see on the screen here.
Yeah. Cool. So this one really made me happy. Keeping them shipping. So the only way I can understand this tweet is that there is a new engine, which I believe should be the 5th one that is rolling off the production line. I'm very, very happy to see this because, it means that the Neutron maiden launch is getting closer and closer. And it really shows what Peter Beck has told us in the interview, that they are not, hand making prototypes. Like, they actually did a factory production line, and despite that Neutron is a test vehicle, it is like the production version of it, and they were very focused on having that also ready as they develop the vehicle. So do you think that we're going to have 9 engines assembled on the pad? No, that's not even the goal anymore, to have it assembled by the end of this year, right? On the pad.
That's a good question. I know it's definitely, it is a good looking engine, Dave. I know it used to be, whether or not it still is, I think is kind of curious to me. I'm not 100% certain. But I think now you'll start to see, I don't know what, F1, for some reason my F1 website just reset and it freaked me out. What's the words I'm looking for? The speed at which I believe you're going to see the Archimedes engine come out now is going to be at a much faster pace than what we were kind of seeing. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've tested it. They've probably been able to get some tweaks, make some minor design changes. But the fact that we haven't heard and the fact that they're continuing to output engines is a very positive sign that what they put into their CAD or whatever digital drawings that they had for blueprints was very similar to what actually they believed was going to happen on the test stand. And that makes me excited because that means they don't have to go back to the drawing board. The fact that they're still putting out engines, to me, and this is speculative, so take it as such, means to me that they'll be able to continue to make engines number 6, 10, 20, at least with this design going forward. Now, who's to say between now and I guess once they get to the wet test or wet rehearsal, meaning when they get it all loaded up with fuel and everything of the like before they actually go for launch, that they don't have some sort of other tweaks that they need to do. That obviously is a plausibility, right? You need to take that into account. But for me, I think that this goes to show that unless you have issues with the tanks or anything of the like, this is going to be a wet dress rehearsal within the first 3 months of 2025. So exciting to hear. And I guarantee we'll hear more about specifics now that we're over that hump of hot fire, and at least have gotten that initial hot fire test on. Are we up to the 90 to 120 seconds that we need to be? No, probably not. Or maybe they've done it, they just haven't shared us the video yet. But to me, I think that the initial hot fire testing and the majority of it's been done. Now they just need to do the length tests. And to me, I don't think there's anything stopping them from getting a wet dress rehearsal. What I will say is there was something else I wanted to. Yeah, I'll leave it there. I thought there was something else. If it comes back to me, I'll chime in.
Yeah, I also just want to add that it's super nice to see that they're so transparent with the Neutron development, and they're sharing the different parts of the rocket that is being done. And if the target is launching the rocket in the summer next year, again, we are armchair rocket scientists here, but for me, there is a lot of parts being done and on the table, and it shouldn't be so hard to assemble those parts. I mean, we have 5 engines that they produced in. Okay, I don't know how long it took them to produce this, but if they have made 5, I don't think to produce they need 5 more, because they need a vacuum optimized one on the second stage of Archimedes. second stage of Neutron. So they need to make 5 more engines, but on the tanks and on the outer casings of the rocket, like almost, I would say like 85% of it was done already. So again, to this armchair rocket scientist, it seems like we're very well on target for the summer launch of Neutron.
Yeah, so I do have somebody on Twitch asking me, can I sub on Twitch? You can follow on Twitch, but unfortunately, until I get, I guess, partner or affiliate, I can't accept subscriptions. So the hope is to grow on Twitch, and eventually folks can sub. That's the hope. But thank you for chiming in. I don't think I've seen your name before, so welcome. That's part of the reason why I'm starting to co-stream on Twitch, is so that folks can we can reach more people, right? And that's all we want, is we want more people in our Rocket Lab community. But I think you put it eloquently, Vince. I think, you know, the tank pieces, we've already seen, I think it was the stage 2 tank to go through testing, and I want to see the stage 1 tank go through testing. And I think that's really the big hurdles. And after that, you know, I would love to see them blow up more stuff, actually. You know, the thing that people might be like, oh, blow up. The thing that's beautiful about blowing up is because you're testing the limits of whatever you're putting on to the pad. And so you can get a lot of valuable data when you blow something up, and you can at least test, you know, have we over-designed this, under-designed this? And it's important to know if you've over-designed something, because for reusability, could that mean that you shave off a day or two in terms of building it? Is it too much material that you're using? If you're using too much material, it could mean that you increase the payload capacity actually by shaving off, you know, a kilogram here, a kilogram there. So all this stuff is extremely important data that we need to test, and it allows us to kind of look forward to version 2, version 3, version 4, because Neutron is going to be here to stay, regardless of what people think. This is the next leg up for Rocket Lab, and I'm not saying we're getting rid of Electron. I think there's a time and place for Electron, but the hope is that Neutron really does a lot of the brunt work, especially as you have more and more big constellations coming out to play. And anyway, and I think it's only going to get exponential, because you think about how many things we're putting up into space now and how much Falcon 9 is putting up into space now. 4 to 5 years from now, we're going to have to replenish those. And so it's almost about not only replenishing what's already up there as those come out of the sky, but also trying to expand on that. So if you want to continue to expand, you're almost fighting an exponential curve of how many launches you need to do. Because if you launch 1,000 satellites into space today, throughout 2025, by 2029, 2030, sorry, I'm about to sneeze, 2029, 2030, you're gonna have to replenish a lot of those, unless you've masterfully designed some of those spacecraft. Some spacecraft can stay in orbit for 10 years. So anyway, just some food for thought there.
Yes, awesome. So now we go to the next one, and that is a very interesting Neutron update coming by Madison Rady, I don't know, probably butchered her name, from New Zealand. She has done fantastic interviews with Peter Beck, very good questions, very relevant questions, and her 2-part interview is dropping next Friday. So I'm definitely probably going to be doing a reaction video on it, and I'm really looking forward to Neutron updates now that we're on the Neutron train here.
Sorry, was there a question? I can't hear it. You have to sorry, that's why I got confused. Yeah, you got to restart the video.
But by the way, it's so funny that I always have.
There's no audio, my guy.
No. I didn't mean to put audio.
Oh,
okay.
I mean,
I'm just talking about that. It's how do you call it? That this interview is dropping. But is my audio good? Because I always get like 1 or 2 guys comment on the videos that like, you made so much money on Rocket Lab and yet you haven't upgraded your microphone and we can't hear you. And then there's like 5 guys below them that always comment like, audio's perfect, audio's really good. And I never know what's the case.
I mean, you got the good looks, you got the audio. I don't know what more people want from you, you know? But no, in all seriousness, I hear you perfectly loud and clear. So
I sometimes think that it's like these trolls, that they just write that, and then I have to spend
think
like
so.
20 minutes
Yeah.
of like, is there something wrong? And then it's like, no,
I'm trying to throw you off your game, my guy. Don't let it happen. Hot Curtis says you're good, then you're good.
Yeah, exactly. Got the final pass from Curtis. So that was all the Rocket Lab news for the weekend, but there is a very significant thing that has happened this week. This thing can make grown men cry sometimes when you see these videos. So SpaceX freaking managed to catch the booster of Starship 1 on the first try. And this is
now I can't hear you.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need audio on this one, so
Okay.
So Matt, what was your reaction to this news?
Just continued amazement. I mean, it was just as cool as when I remember
after you stopped crying. That's what I mean, right?
Yeah, of course. After I was able to wipe away the tears. No, seriously, this it continues. I think for some reason people think I dislike SpaceX. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Many times I've shed a tear over how much amazement and how much joy seeing what they do and able to push forward. One of the things which I was actually what's the word I'm looking for? Misconstrued by the Obama administration was back in 2013 when the Obama administration really privatized the space industry. It actually ended up being something for the better. While we did have to take a pause for about I would say 5-6 years before we truly started to see these massive achievements coming out of SpaceX and many of the other private industry, we're now starting to see leaps and bounds being able to do stuff like this, right? Re-land ships that are literally as large as a Saturn V. I've been personally up close and within 10 feet of a Saturn V. We have them here in Houston, and if any of you guys ever come to visit Houston, maybe for a SpaceX launch, that it's a couple hours away, so you might land in Houston and drive down to Boca Chica to be able to see a SpaceX launch if that's the case. And you stop in Houston, reach out. I'll be more than happy to go to NASA. It's not too far. It's like a 40-minute drive, and it's a nice part of Texas to go and visit. But the fact that this thing is almost the same size as a Saturn V or comparable size, I mean, in the same magnitude, we'll say, and the fact that they're landing it like this is just insane. The video doesn't do it justice as to how large of a vehicle this is. I wish that they were able to put a person next to it. And I think the only place you're able to actually see is, I forget who it was. It might have been Everyday Astronaut or somebody of the like that actually went to go and view the Starship warehouse where they had like 3 or 4 Starships kind of waiting in the Falcon Heavy booster. It's just, it's next level how big these things are. Literally the size of skyscrapers, and the fact that you're able to land a skyscraper on a platform like this for instant reusability is phenomenal, and a huge leap and bound for not only engineering but for the future of space exploration. The thing that I think people get misconstrued is, because you're doing things like this, it's going to be, and eventually this will be a profitable endeavor, but this is all to help feed Mars, and Mars itself will be a historically unprofitable venture until 15-20 years down the road. So I think a lot of people hear me talk about SpaceX and think I don't actually support them. I do. They're just two different things to look at. SpaceX, in terms of space exploration and driving the humanity and everything forward, is absolutely 100%. I'm 100% behind. But when it comes from an investment perspective and making sure that the company has longevity and actually continues down the path of profitability, that's where I'd put my lens into Rocket Lab. SpaceX will never be a public company. And the reason being is because the fact that as soon as you make SpaceX public, they're going to want to spin out Starlink. They're going to want to make all things Falcon 9. They'll probably get rid of the Starship unless they're able to make money off the Starship in the short term. And they'll completely nix the Mars exploration program. And so when you think about what I'm talking about when I compare SpaceX to Rocket Lab, I'm for both companies. But I think what you need to recognize is one is for profit, and that's Rocket Lab. That's what I have money in. And I'm not saying that the valuation for SpaceX is going to go down, but you have to recognize at some point it's going to hit an asymptote where it's not going to be able to, or a ceiling maybe is a better word, because eventually people are going to recognize, how am I going to get my money out? And the only way they'll be able to get their money out is if they get Starlink, or if Starlink grows to large enough amounts where it could subsidize the Falcon Heavy or the Mars missions. Not to say that NASA won't help subsidize that. I believe that's going to be the case as well, but that's going to be historically losing venture. So unless you have this massive wave of revenue that's going to be able to help subsidize this particular part of the space program, SpaceX might struggle in the longer term if it was a public company. But unfortunately, it's not. Unfortunately, fortunately, they can just rely completely on being subsidized by whoever wants to continue to invest in the company for the long term. So hopefully that clarifies for some people that were I had some people in Chris's Discord, that I had some people on X, reach out to me and say, why are you a SpaceX hater? I'm far from, man. And in fact, I like the fact that Rocket Lab tries to emulate what SpaceX has done. But the thing that's beautiful about SpaceX is they've paved a way that allows Rocket Lab to pick and choose. Like, they're not immediately running into human spaceflight because they don't think it's profitable. Now, in 10 years' time, they could say, well, we're moving more people. The total addressable market for human spaceflight's a lot larger than we were expecting. We can now go into it, and they have that capability. But I think that what's beautiful is that Rocket Lab is very particular about what things they take on, unless they believe it's going to make them money for the long term. So hopefully that helps clarify, but this is just continued absolutely fascinating stuff by Elon. I'm a big fan. And I hope he continues to push. The fact that he's been able to push the electric vehicle front, the robotics front, as well as the space front, man, it's phenomenal. He's doing great work. He's able to put people on a vision unlike anybody I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also important because as you said, that there's a lot of SpaceX hate, or I don't know what you can call it, but a rivalry on the Rocket Lab community and the SpaceX community, I guess you could say that. And to be honest, if SpaceX hadn't succeeded with their Falcon 1 launch, I don't think we would have a Rocket Lab today as we know it. And I do believe that, yes, like, they're a fierce competitor, and I'm a little bit worried because I was thinking that the Starship development would not go this fast. And if they very seriously get down the cost of launch, and they are increasing the cadence of Starship really, really much. And I'm like, damn it, this is happening even faster than I thought. But I do believe that Starship is going to be in a different category than Neutron, and the governments are very incentivized to have multiple space providers. I mean, just the recent happenings with the Starliner shows why you need to have two possibilities for things. The Falcon 9 has been grounded recently, and if that's the only vehicle that you rely on, then it can be that you need national security satellites to go up, and something happens with Starship and then it's grounded. You still need the service. So I'm very sure that Rocket Lab is going to find a way, but it is scary when SpaceX is basically innovating faster. It's a 20-year company, and normally, like, companies slow down, and then I feel like somehow, like, SpaceX is, like, speeding up in their innovations. So it's pretty crazy.
The fact that they've gotten 5 of these vehicles off already is insane. I don't remember when they launched the first one, but the cadence is way faster than I was expecting it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying.
I mean, it's almost comparable to the Electron cadence, because it's. I mean, okay, that was probably not a good thing to say, but because this was test flight number 5, and when was the? I mean, we should Google it, but
I'm kind of curious. I'd actually like to stack
Because
Falcon 9's already got the first 100, but I'd actually be kind of curious because the next thing we're going to be monitoring is Neutron. So it's almost like one of these Starship / Falcon Heavy launches in cadence compared to, and I'm curious how quick the Neutron's able to turn around.
Yeah,
if it'll be faster or slower than, because this feels way faster than Electron. Electron, it took them like, was it 18 months to get 2 or 3 launches off? So.
Yeah, and the, how do you call it? Like the test flight 6 is ready and waiting for approval. So maybe they will have like a month in between these 2 launches. And if we're starting already now to launch, I mean, like we're not even serving customers yet. Like the data is the payload, as they're saying. So if your cadence is, like 1 a month going into doing commercial missions, I mean that is fierce. And very very competitive.
Yeah, I'm like 7 minutes behind in the chat. I'm very excited to see what Madison's interview was. Did they already have it? Did she release it already?
No, it's coming this Friday.
Okay, that's what I thought. I know she released like a teaser, but I was hoping I didn't miss it. Okay, good.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it, to get like inside details on Neutron. I'm very curious, like how much is Peter Beck involved, because how do you call it? Like like Rocket Lab is so spread out geographically, and then it's like you see him in New Zealand sometimes, or like mostly when he does interviews, he's in New Zealand, and then you're like, yeah, but the development is happening like in the US, and like how involved is he? And yeah, very curious about that interview.
Yeah, it'll be great, and she just did one with Michael Saylor as well. I would love to actually reach out to Maddie and see if she'd be interested in the channel. I don't know anything about her other than she has really high quality. She has very few videos comparable to like myself and yourself, but the quality of her interviews are absolutely phenomenal. She does a lot of in person, and she does a phenomenal job. So, anyway.
Thanks for saying that we have shit quality. No, I'm kidding. We have like no production quality. We're like, I mean, you have higher than me, but yeah, I'm just in my living room.
The good looks don't help with the production quality. So,
all right. So next one here is, you guys remember why we were stressing with to have Neutron having a credible path to flight in 2024? It was to get the national security launches that was in the tranche 2 or 1. I always forget which one is which, but one was for existing space companies, and I think tranche 2 was open for new space companies, and basically none of the new space companies made it with their rockets. Firefly was in the running, Rocket Lab was in the running. There was a few other companies that was in the running, and now SpaceX mopped the floor with all those contracts and have gotten them all. And it's a $733 million award over, I think it was 8 launches. Would have been very nice to have a few Neutron launches from this one. That's all I can say.
We'll see, man. It's still very early in the space race. So fingers crossed. But yeah, I did. I don't know if you were going to bring this up or not. Somebody mentioned in the chat, and I actually did just see this scrolling through Twitter, is that the Rocket 4 from Astros is ready. Did you see that?
I saw a tweet, and then what's his name? Dave G commented this laughing face on it, but I couldn't find
Dave, the zero fucks. I love it.
Yeah, but I didn't see who, because it wasn't what's his face who commented it. I think it was like an employee or an investor, and I clicked on their Twitter profile, and then it wasn't like directly I could see associated with.
So it might be fake. Okay, that might be.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, is this like a meme now, or?
I didn't. I was in my car, and for some reason, my car was having trouble connecting to my Wi-Fi, so I couldn't even see. It was just like blurry. I could see the thumbnail, and it looked like an Astra 4. But when I tried clicking on it, I couldn't I couldn't open it. But this kept being blurry, so I couldn't see if it was our favorite CEO or not.
I'm gonna see if I can find it really quick. But you know, how bad does your company reputation have to be that when you post a picture of your ready product and people think it's a meme or it's it's AI generated? I mean, I feel sorry for them, but it is what it is. Let me see if I find.
Their rockets go in the wrong direction. Oh Lord. Oh man.
No, it's even worse than I thought. Here's the post.
Dave. The myth, the legend, hot Dave, man.
Posted Stanley from The Office. So look, Michael France. I have no idea who that is. Rocket 4 will destroy SpaceX. I'm sharing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, like learning photography, model rocketry at Ministar-based student. I have like
maybe YouTube. Let's check it out. What do they got?
Sorry?
They got a YouTube. Let's check it out.
YouTube.
It had the link right up.
It's loading. Here it is. Michael France, he's an MF. This MFer.
It's damn MFers.
This is his community, you know, like you're supposed to have like this name for your community, and he's like, "Hi MFers, how you're doing?"
I should use that.
Oh yeah, Matt Farley. Yeah, you're also an MFer.
No, I've gotten that my whole life. People are like, "Oh, MF, huh?" And I'm like, "Yep." So yeah, I've always gotten that, so I should start using that.
So I think that this tweet is fake. This tweet is fake because it's.
You're probably right.
Yeah, we can't verify it. So
unverifiable.
Unverifiable. Ooh, I stopped the sharing.
What about haste? This gentleman's upset that we didn't talk haste yet, but
what did we miss?
We'll see. I know. No, I don't think we missed anything. I mean, I'm still waiting for one of the launches. I know that they have the DART launch, within the next 6 months. But that's really the only thing have seen. I know they have other things scheduled for the first half of 2025. So fingers crossed that we actually get there. But yeah.
The last news that I want to share here is this news that California has rejected the Air Force's plan to give SpaceX permission to launch 50 times a year because of Elon Musk tweets. And I mean, just curious what you think about this. I mean, it's something that Peter Beck has said, that he's definitely a very boring CEO. He doesn't do crazy stuff like Elon Musk, and a lot of people could maybe feel safer with launching with Rocket Lab. However, I don't know how Peter Beck can call himself boring. I just saw, I think it was Francisco who sent me that he owns like a fighter jet in the Czech Republic that is like registered in his name. So I don't know how he can call himself boring, but the two guys are definitely different. And I think it's crazy that you can get space licenses disapproved because of politics. So
let me check this here. I'm curious what the actual statement says. Where is it here? This guy says a lot. He posts a lot. When's this from?
Holmars. I can let me see if I can send you the link.
I was just gonna click in and try to read.
Yeah, I sent you the link on Twitter.
So let's just see. Elon Musk is hopping about the country, spewing and tweeting political falsehoods and attacking FEMA while claiming his desire to help the hurricane victims with free Starlink access Commissioner Gretchen Newsom said at the meeting in San Diego. I really appreciate the work of Space Force, said Commission Chair Carol Hart. But here we're dealing with a company, the head of which has aggressively injected himself in the presidential race. He's managed the company in a way that's described by Commissioner Newsom that I believe to be very disturbing. Interesting. If that's true, man, I think that's very messed up.
They filed the suit, as Kurt is saying, like SpaceX sued them now.
Good. It's unfortunate, it's part of the reason, like going and diving into the political piece, because I think some people care about this, not necessarily who I'm voting for, or anything like that. But Chris Patel asked me the other day, and I'm afraid to talk about, either who I would vote for, right? And the fact that I'm afraid.
It's we all know who you're voting for. I mean, you work in the oil industry. You for sure are voting for Kamala to ban oil and
exactly ban fracking.
Yeah, that's the only logical thing.
It's actually very interesting about that particular topic, because in the long term, actually, it would be better for me to vote for somebody like Kamala, because that would mean that the supply would eventually go down, because the inability to frack and do these things, a lot of the easy oil has been found. And so now a lot of the volume is coming from, for specifically the United States, a lot of it's through fracturing and things of the like. And, trust me, a lot of the oil that people think is in their water tables that might be a couple 100 feet below ground, trust me, we're literally thousands of feet below whatever water table you think that we're connected to. We're thousands of feet below it. So anyway, there's that piece. But the supply would actually decrease under Kamala, so the oil prices would actually increase over the long term, comparatively to somebody like Donnie, who would encourage and maybe deregulate the industry to some extent, would make it easier, more cost efficient to do business, and would actually decrease the price per barrel. So for anybody that's curious about, one way or the other, there's that piece. But I just think it's messed up. I think there's no more of this normal America where you used to be able to have good conversations about, one way or the other. Now it's about the immediate extremism. It's like, you're voting for that person. Oh, you're a racist, or you're a bigot, or whatever. It's just like, okay. And I love watching some of these YouTube channels now where they're like, what policy do you specifically disagree with? And they can't actually name anything. So to me, it's just like, you've gone to the extremes to try to push people in a certain direction. And there's so much sheepism now, like people just blindly watching mainstream media. And the mainstream media is mostly leaning towards one direction. And so they won't actually go into the specific policy, but they'll just say that this person's a racist or won't be good for the economy without actually having any specifics. So it's very interesting. So to see this and to limit prosperity of America's space programs by, caring so much about who somebody is voting for. If it was in the exact opposite direction, right? If he was, say, voting for Kamala or speaking on behalf of Kamala, would he be able to launch up to 100? Like it's insane to think that if you take the exact opposite stance, you'd be sitting there being like scratching your head. And it just goes to show you how gray the world has kind of become. It used to be like rules are rules, and things are. Anyway, I'll get off my little soapbox, but it's sad to hear that.
Yeah, I think it's 2 weeks left, and then people can chill out.
Comments
for another. What did you say?
I got distracted by some of the comments.
Yeah. No, it's what is it? 2 weeks left or 3 weeks left, and then we can chill out for 4 years again. We don't have to listen or talk about politics.
Yes, well, we'll see. I mean, if Kamala gets in, I don't think you hear much about politics from a lot of people anymore. But I think if Uncle Donnie gets in, then the mainstream media will likely continue to put him on a cross like they did for his first term. But we'll see.
Yeah, but not us. At least we are it will be clear for us what policies go on, and then that's it. We discuss it once, and then not for 4 more years, probably.
4 more years. 4 more years. That's
cool. Yeah, I think that we went over everything. I don't know, unless you want to mention anything short-term. Oh yeah, I want to speak to you about something. I did sit down last weekend and did my modeling for very pessimistic constellation numbers, and I got the fair value to like fair value today between like $20 to $25 based on very pessimistic constellation numbers. And again, I also said it in the video that I made, that it's like, yes, the constellation is in the future. So it's like, maybe you cannot assign even the pessimistic numbers. Like maybe you even have to think that, okay, let's not take 100% of the assumption. Let's take 50% of the assumption. It's still adding, yeah, then you're at $15. So there is a lot more room to go. But obviously, I'm very bad on predicting the short-term price targets. I wanted to hear your thoughts. The people who want to see my video, you find it on the channel. But I wanted to hear your thoughts. Is it a crazy assumption? Have I lost my mind? Or you also... I know your price target is $15 by the end of 2025.
Yeah, and it makes me kind of curious now that we're in the $10, $11 range, and I'm kind of curious to see if the reason why that is people's anticipation of building what's going to happen with Neutron. And I don't want to say it's going to be a sell the news event, but my thought process is will there be this big up to $20 and it settles down at 15 by the end of the year? I don't know. Or is it going to actually run all the way to 20? I think, I don't know, but I'll stick with 15 for now. But I hear you. I think that there's a reason why you could easily see this at $20, $25. So I don't discredit you, especially if people start to recognize the future potential of what's going on in this organization. And I think right now everybody's piling on so many risks to recognize, what could happen. And of course, always have those risks in your back pocket. Always try to quantify those risks. But to me, with every passing quarter, seeing the execution ability of this organization, these guys, and what they've been able to accomplish over the past almost 20 years at this point is just phenomenal. And to me, it just goes to show they've done it all before. What's to say that they won't do it with Neutron? Sure, maybe the first Neutron doesn't go as planned, but Neutron 2 or 3 will. And they have the capability and capital to do that. So it just kind of makes me scratch my head a little bit. At the end of the day, I'm excited to see what happens. Maybe my price target of 15 by end of year 2025 is very pessimistic, but to me, I think it's somewhat conservative, and I'd love to see it, be worth 20 or $25. But I think at this point it's hard to determine, because I don't want to say speculating on future value, but there's so many things that have to stack in the right direction. But what I will say is kind of like what you stated. It's severely undervalued at this point. I think so many people are stacking up the risks and not looking at the future potential. Versus if this company had a reputation like SpaceX or a reputation like Tesla or Palantir, the exact opposite would happen, right? The stock would be in the $20, $25 range today in anticipation of. So I think you see stocks go through that at times, and I hope eventually people recognize how great Peter, Adam, and eventually Frank, and I hope to have him on the channel as the new COO in the future. I hope that people that pendulum swings and people don't look down upon this company and they say, hey, these guys are a solid number 2, and they're going to continue to back up space and grow, just like SpaceX did. So,
yeah. Cool. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being here this week. Thanks for everybody for watching. Please make sure you subscribe. Matt's channel data is in the description box below. Please make sure you follow and subscribe to him. And see you guys next week.
Yes, and if you guys could take the opportunity to to follow me on Twitch. I'm about to post the link there. I just need 50 people, and then hopefully we can stop bugging the crap out of you guys, because eventually it'll have a life of its own, and we can just co-stream. Like I'm co-streaming right now. You guys don't even know because it does it automatically. But the hope is to eventually grow that, and eventually just not even talk about it anymore. So once we hit that hurdle and it's monetized, you guys won't ever hear me ask again. So you guys rock. Thank you.
Awesome, everyone. Have a great evening. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you all.